Howdy, YouTubers. This is Steven, and I want to share an article that I ran across over the internet with you guys. And the title of the article is Mark Halperin apologizes after asking Ted Cruz to speak Spanish. And this article comes from the Huffington Post, and the author is named Roque Planas. And the article was published in May of 2015. And what I'll do is read the article and give my thoughts and opinions as I go. Nothing new there. All right, here we go. All right. Bloomberg's Mark Halperin apologized Monday after an uproar over a recent interview in which he asked Senator Ted Cruz, a Republican senator from Texas, to speak Spanish and name his favorite Cuban food and singer. All right, so right here, right off the bat, I don't really know who Mark Halperin is. I don't think I really want to know who Mark Halperin is. From the sounds of it, I don't think he is of the Latino Hispanic persuasion. And I think that may have offended some people when he went into this whole spiel and started asking him about his favorite Cuban food and favorite Cuban singer and asked him to speak Spanish. And I'll get into that a little bit later. But for now, I'll go on with the rest of the article. Halperin seemed particularly concerned with Cruz's background in an interview for the show, quote unquote, with all due respect, repeatedly questioning Cruz about his Cuban heritage and asking him to welcome a challenger to the 2016 presidential race, quote unquote, Espanol. And it's supposed to be en Espanol, not Espanol. But yeah, I saw the interview and I can see where people were like, it's off-putting at best. And I don't really know what Mark's motives are in questioning his heritage. I can guess his motives. I think I have an idea of what his motives are. But I'll save that for later as well. On to the next. The interview, which Think Progressive called racist and the Washington Post dubbed cringy, first aired on April 30th, but received more attention over the weekend when Ruben Navarrete penned a column saying the interview, quote unquote, nauseated him. All right, so I guess people didn't see the interview at first, or wasn't checking for the interview, but then it wound up catching some attention when someone wrote about it. Ruben. All right. So here's a quote. People are really interested in you and your identity. So I just want to ask you, as a historical matter, when you filled out your application to Princeton, to Harvard Law School, did you list yourself as Hispanic or as a Hispanic? Halperin asked Cruz. So he asked him, did he list himself as Hispanic when he applied for Princeton and to Harvard Law School? And I think that is kind of like basically, I guess it's a roundabout way of asking him, does he identify himself as Hispanic in totality, in all aspects, or is he just using the Hispanic population, or just using that part of his ethnicity or his racial makeup, whatever you want to call it, to his advantage? Like, okay, I'm Hispanic today, but I'm Caucasian tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? And that often happens with people of certain ethnicities who don't quite look the ethnicity that they're a part of. Like, for example, I'd say someone maybe like perhaps Mariah Carey. I know that's a bit of a stretch, and it might not really factor into this particular conversation or situation. But yeah, sometimes if you have, say, a person who looks like Mariah Carey, who is claiming to be, say, African American or Latino American, people from those respective communities might have an issue and might be suspicious of that person because they may feel that, okay, they're like going to just be African American or Latino when it's convenient, thus using that community. And I think that's where it comes from. It's like, really, people are asking, like, are you in this totally? However, I feel that Mark, when he was doing this, his questioning, I'm not sure if that was his motive in trying to see, was he really down for Latinos? I think his motive was probably more so, let me discredit this guy because he's a Republican, you know? And, it's, the Hispanic voting bloc is really, uh, it's a voting bloc that a lot of people would like to have. And he's trying to prevent him from getting the voting bloc, perhaps. That's the way I'm seeing it. I could be wrong, but it doesn't seem to me that Mark really cares about Hispanic people or issues that affect Hispanic people. I don't think it was his intention or motive to say, hey, let me go to bat for Latino Americans here and see if this person's really down with Latino people. I don't think that was his intention when he was doing this. I think it was more so to discredit him because he's a Republican. But I could be wrong. I don't really know Mark Halperin, and I am making some assumptions. So hey, if you guys know something I don't know, let me know. Feel free to let me know. All right. Let's see next. All right. Cruz is Hispanic, as in Ted Cruz. He's Hispanic. His father was born in Cuba, immigrated to the United States in the 1950s. Cruz himself was born in Canada, but raised in the United States from the age of 4. And also, I'm like, is this dude even eligible to be part of the presidential race? Don't you have to be born an American citizen? Only thing I'm thinking is maybe he has dual citizenship since birth. Maybe, but he was born in Canada, right? Like, where are the birthers? Because they were all over Barack Obama. So where are the birthers all over Ted Cruz? And they might be, but give it time, maybe they might be. But I'm watching out for them. If they're gonna put Barack Obama through the birther, gauntlet, then you can put Ted Cruz through it too. All right, next. Halperin focused on Cruz's background in this interview, asking him whether he had a favorite Cuban food or singer. The line of questioning might have come across as lighthearted, but Halperin kept a straight face throughout, interrupting Cruz if he didn't immediately give a straight answer. Yeah, I saw the interview. I didn't really see much of. I didn't think it was really lighthearted. I don't think it was really. I didn't think it was meant in fun. I don't think that was meant in fun. Like, hey, hey, who's your favorite Cuban singer, or what's your favorite Cuban food? I don't think it was meant in fun. I could be wrong, but if you look at an interview, I don't think it was meant in fun, and you probably won't think it's meant in fun either. All right. All right, next, and this is a quote. Finally, I wanted to give you the opportunity to directly welcome your colleague, Senator Bernie Sanders, to the race. And I'd like you to do it, if you would, en español. It's supposed to be en español. But yeah, nevertheless, Halperin said that to Cruz. And Cruz stuck to English. And here's another quote. As a journalist, I felt embarrassed for Halperin. Navarrete wrote. So we're back to that article that Ruben wrote now. Right. As a Hispanic, I felt like I was watching a college fraternity have fun with racial stereotypes, like when staging a border party where people show up in serapes and fake mustaches. I didn't know people did border parties. I didn't even know. That's strange. I tell you, people need to tell you. Yeah, they also do. I have heard of like the blackface parties, but I didn't know there were such things as border parties. So hey, you learn something new every day, you know. But yeah, Navarrete, I guess since he's Hispanic, Ruben Navarrete. Yeah, he was offended, I guess, or embarrassed rather. As a journalist, he felt embarrassed, and I guess he was offended, although he doesn't really mention it. But because it seemed like it was just based on racial stereotypes. But I don't think. I mean, your food and your singer. I think I could let that slide a little bit. Me personally, I'm not Cuban, I'm not Hispanic, so I can't really speak for the community, those communities. But still, I do agree that it's just strange coming from someone who is presumably not of Hispanic heritage. Mark Halperin, I think Halperin is a last name that is of Jewish origin or Judaic origin. Um, and I think if he is Jewish, then he should be giving people a test about how Jewish a person is versus how Hispanic or Latino a person is. All right, next. Halperin issued a statement Monday apologizing to Bloomberg viewers and Cruz for the way he conducted the interview. And here's a quote from him. My intent was to give the senator a chance to speak further about his heritage and personal connections to the community through some casual questions, the statement says. And I'm a bit skeptical because I'm like, why are you so concerned? Why are you concerned? Are you really that concerned about Hispanic and Latino people? Do you really like go hard for issues about that affect Hispanic and Latino people, or is there some other motive here? Quote unquote, I rushed through the questions and that was a mistake. It led to poor tone and timing. I also understand why some felt the questions were inappropriate. Okay, so it seems like, he's saying what we want to hear. He's saying what people want to hear, you know. And perhaps, he did rush through the questions, but let's pretend like he didn't rush through the questions. I think, I don't know, it seemed like there was a motive behind this, it it's strange. It's like, I don't know. I question his sincerity in all this. Mark's sincerity in all this. Like, was it really sincere? Are you really concerned about his heritage? Are you concerned about dismissing his heritage? And by the way, I ain't like, I'm not a, I'm not against Ted Cruz, and I'm not for Ted Cruz. I don't really know about Ted Cruz, to be honest. So right now, at this moment, I don't really don't have a stake as far as politics are concerned in this. I'm kind of like more so about people going at it more so about the identity and the question of identity from someone who is not even of the identity that you are questioning. You know. All right, next. Let's see. As for asking Ted Cruz to welcome Senator Sanders to the race in Spanish, that was meant to be the type of lighthearted banter that he's done with us before on the show. In no way was I asking Ted Cruz to, quote unquote, prove he was an authentic, quote unquote, authentic Latino. I apologize to those who were offended and to Senator Cruz. All right. Well, the damage is done already, so it's easy to apologize, once you've done what you want to do, you know. But I feel like these questions would probably be better coming from someone who is of Cuban heritage or Cuban origin, or at least someone who is Hispanic. Um, and who is Mark Halperin to judge Hispanic dad, or Latini dad, or Cubanness? You know, as far as I know, I don't think he really has a connection to anyone who is Hispanic. If I'm wrong, hey, feel free to enlighten me and let me know. Let's see. Next, Cruz has faced attacks related to his Hispanic identity in the past, mainly from Democratic politicians challenging his political views. Latino Rebels, a widely read news and opinion blog, also took issue with Halperin's interview. All right, let's see what the Latino Rebels have to say. All right, quote unquote. Cruz's policies might not mesh with the majority of U.S. Latino voters, parentheses, understatement of the year. But he is still of Cuban descent, and that makes him Latino, whether you have an issue with it or not, quote unquote. Latino Rebels wrote. And also, quote unquote, what Halperin did in this interview was insulting. All right, so I'm glad some Latinos seem to at least be sort of at least defending the part about questioning his Latino heritage instead of following suit with this, because I feel like this is sort of like a diversion tactic, or some type of way to sort of manipulate people into voting a certain way, because the Democrats want the Hispanic vote, but they're afraid. I'm not, like, based on what's going on here, it seems like, okay, the Democrats want the Hispanic vote, but they think that the Hispanic vote might go to Ted Cruz because he is of Hispanic origin, and people could probably, Hispanics could probably identify with that. So, like, hey, let's sort of, test him. Let's try and dismiss his origins, because he doesn't really look like what you would consider Hispanic. He doesn't really have brown skin. His look probably would be more so considered Caucasian / Jewish. He could probably pass for one of those two things. I know that technically Jewish is, a religion, but people consider it a race sometimes. All right. Next, Cruz said on Facebook Monday that he appreciated the apology, but he hadn't taken offense. All right. So that is good that Ted Cruz is taking that position, because if he said he'd taken offense, then people will keep bringing this up and bringing this up and bringing this up in every interview, thus trying to furthermore, examine his claim to being Latino, Quote unquote, Mark Halperin is a serious and fair-minded journalist, Cruz wrote, quote unquote. Today, he kindly issued an apology for some silly question he asked me in an interview. The apology was unnecessary. No offense was taken, nor, I believe, intended, but is certainly appreciated. All right, so that is good again that Ted Cruz is not trying to play up to this and trying to play victim here, because that oftentimes leads to more issues that he'll have to encounter on his presidential run, So he is doing the right thing, kind of like how Barack Obama did when people were kind of going in on him and saying sort of things here and there, little sly remarks here and there. Sometimes you just got to brush this stuff off, because at the end of the day, these are just little tactics to sort of, distract from, the real issues at hand. And, it's mainly just to sort of manipulate people, oddly. All right. Next, For those still confused about how to tell whether someone is Latino, here's a handy chart. I don't have the chart, obviously, but the chart was published, and basically, I'll describe the chart. Basically, it's like a chart of Latin America, and it's like, are you Latino? Or, well, no, the question is like, were you born in Latin America? Some people may answer no, some people may answer yes. If you answer no, then it's like, is any of your family from Latin America? Then it's like no or yes. If it's no, then you're not Latino. As well, if you answer yes to the first question, are you from Latin America, then you're Latino. So it's pretty simple, I guess, you know. But people feel that, I guess, Latino and Hispanic have a certain look, you know, quote unquote, a look, and a brown look. People want that look. I know the actress Sofia Vergara, said that when she came to the United States to pursue an acting career, she dyed her hair. And she dyed it, I believe, like brown or either black. Her hair, I believe, is naturally blonde. And she did that because that's the stereotype that people have of Latinas, you know, dark hair, brown skin. Thus, in order for her to be able to be classified and to fit easily into certain roles, she had to sort of, rearrange her look a little bit. But overall, I'm like, who is Mark Halperin to ask these questions, really? What's his motive behind asking these questions? Are there sincere motives, or is it just to sort of like knock him away from the Latino community so that the Latinos will vote for a Democratic candidate? Because it's about the vote. A lot of folks come into communities of POCs, people of color, and say this and that, and use the community for votes. And at the end of the day, I'm not sure if the community really benefits from these people being in office, But I'm not hating on Ted Cruz, do you, Ted Cruz, do you? And to Mark Halperin, who are you to really ask these questions? I think these questions had a motive behind them. I don't think they were meant to be lighthearted. Heck, let me ask Mark Halperin what's his favorite Cuban food. Who is his favorite Cuban singer? You speak or introduce someone in Spanish, and then you're like, well, why am I being asked these questions? But overall, yeah, I think I've said pretty much all I have to say about this issue. So feel free to comment. Feel free to subscribe. Feel free to give me a thumbs up. Your feedback and your support are extremely appreciated and extremely valued. Until the next news article analysis, adios and goodbye for now. Yeah, before I go, I just want to mention, if I haven't mentioned it before, that I believe that Latinos do have a right to ask this question. I believe that. And I feel like these questions, as well as other more in-depth questions, would be better asked by a Latino, not by someone who is not of the community. Even better, a Cuban Latino. I just think that Mark Halperin is not the person to be asking these questions. And if these questions were truly meant to be lighthearted, then I would kind of give him a pass with this. Hey, you're just trying to explore more about someone's culture and where they come from. But I don't think that was the case. I really think that these questions had a motive behind them. And the motive was just to, show or paint him a certain way and sort of try and challenge his claim to being, Latino. Because, again, Democrats want the Hispanic vote, and they're afraid, or you know, thinking that okay, maybe this Hispanic vote might be split or either go toward totally Ted Cruz. So it's a tactic, you know. All's fair in politics, right? But again, thanks a lot for watching.